Hello friends, and welcome to a very spooky art video. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, so I wanted to create a spooky piece of art to celebrate. I really wanted to draw some kind of creepy scene with some mushrooms, so I googled creepy mushrooms to get some ideas and came across one called an inky cap mushroom. The moment I laid my eyes on them, I was just so inspired. They were creepy and whimsical, very Burtonesque, which is an aesthetic that I love. I am a huge Tim Burton fan, and his movies are some of my favorites to watch during the Halloween season. Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Sweeney Todd, Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, and my all-time favorite Halloween movie, Sleepy Hollow. Seriously, I watch it like 20 times during October. Going along with that Burton aesthetic, I really wanted to play into the creepiness of the mushrooms, so I thought adding spider webs would help with that. And of course, if you have spider webs, you need a spider. So I added one to the top of one of the mushrooms. The spider started out more cute than creepy, but I fixed that later on. I don't make many illustrations, mainly because I enjoy painting more, and I feel like I'm a better painter than illustrator. For this illustration, I decided to use Copics because they blend really well and are great for creating base colors. One of the really great things about working with Copics is that they layer really beautifully together. Whenever you layer the colors together, the color underneath works the same as an underpainting, and I love it when the little bits of that color peek through. When I work with Copics, I work from light to dark because it's easier to go darker, but it doesn't really work in the other direction. One of the Copic techniques I used quite a bit for this piece was the tip-to-tip method. Essentially, you brush color from one marker onto the tip of another color, and the colors will blend together quite smoothly and create some really interesting gradients and textures. This technique works the best when you add a darker color to a lighter color. I learned this technique from Bailey J, and I really like the effects it creates. I am a very big fan of creating texture in my work. I feel like texture just adds more life to a piece. Whenever I create illustrations, I really like to use Copics as my base colors and then use color pencils to darken the shadows. My favorite color pencils for shading are the Prismacolor Col-Erase pencils. They are much softer than regular color pencils, so they are much easier to blend out. This is because they are erasable. I also really like layering the Col-Erase pencils on top of each other. You can create some really pretty gradients this way. It's also great for darkening a certain color. So for example, I like to layer black on top of the indigo blue to make it darker. However, because they are so soft, you can't really build up a lot of color with them. So I usually go over them with a regular color pencil if I want to either darken my lines or intensify my shadows. When it is time to create highlights for my illustrations, I like to use a chalk pencil. Now you can use something like a white color pencil, but I find that color pencils tend to be very waxy, so they don't blend out as smoothly, and building up opacity can be pretty difficult. Unfortunately, my regular black color pencil is basically non-existent now, so that was really interesting to work with. While chalk typically does pretty well with building up opacity, I really like to push my values, so I will often use either a white gel pen or white paint to really pump up the highlights. When it was time to start on the spider webs, I felt like my webs were lacking, so I found a reference photo of some spider webs on a mushroom so I could improve them and make them even more spooky. To create the webs, I used acrylic paint because it's me and I can't help myself. Now you can use either ink or gouache, but I like to use acrylics because I have a bit more control over the opacity. I mixed Prussian blue and gray together to make a dark blue-gray to act as both a shadow and guideline for my webs. Now this paper isn't meant for painting on, so I had to be really careful with how wet my brush was, because if it was too wet, it would basically destroy the paper. And because of this, it made working with the acrylics a little bit harder. Acrylics flow better when they have a little bit more water in them, but I was really happy with the end result, so it was worth it. I then mixed some white into the gray mixture to lighten up my webs. I find using pure white or even pure black can really flatten a piece, so I like to add a tiny bit of another color, typically blue, to create more dimension. As I was painting the webs, they were feeling a bit lifeless and not as creepy as I wanted. So where the webs were attached to either the mushrooms or the ground, I added some delicate tiny lines. This really helped to show that the webs were clinging onto the objects, and it really upped the creepiness. While chalk typically does pretty well with building up opacity, I really like to push my values, so I will often use either a white gel pen or white paint to really pump up the highlights. Alrighty, we have come to the end of the video. I really hope that you enjoyed this spooky video, and if you're a fan of creepy and whimsical things, then give this video a thumbs up. And if you would like to continue to follow me on this art journey, then feel free to subscribe. And if you would like sneak peeks and updates on my upcoming art pieces, then I suggest that you check out my Instagram. I hope that you have a safe and spooky Halloween. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!